Hello, I'm Ingrid Willinge and welcome to Media Week. On what's been a busy week for the sector, we have a lot coming up for you on the program today, including huge changes at 7 News with a suite of new executives taking control at the top, plus 10 results out. What does it say about free-to-air ad revenue? We'll bring you all those details over the next half hour. But first, huge changes at Nine as the company resets its brand in the new media era. The company held its upfronts this week, announcing new channels, HD and streaming options. Well, Mediaweek's editor and publisher James Manning was there, and he joins us, as always, in the studio as our co-host. James, great to have your company on the show. So you were at the upfronts this week for Nine.
Yeah.
A lot of things to come out of this.
A few big announcements. I mean, Seven caught the market on the hop a little earlier this year with their commitment to live stream. Sort of Nine did a bit of a role reversal yesterday when the big deal, I guess, was they taking their primary channel into HD, which, you know, a few people were joking, yeah, welcome to 2008, Nine, because it's something that maybe they should have done a while ago. But they're the first of the big free-to-air channels to commit to put their primary channel on HD. They've done that a clever way of something to do with restacking their bandwidth. Don't ask me about that because I'm not sure how it works. All the technicals. But they've also got a new free-to-air channel up. 9 Life that's going there, and they're going to stream everything too.
And is 9 Life a lot of sort of purchase programming from internationally?
Yeah,
it sounds
all
like
purchase programming, heavily skewed to the US, especially to start with. I think they just want to get it up, find out what the audience preferences are, and then sort of start tailoring the channel to what works well and what doesn't.
And in terms of seeing other media free-to-airs follow suit, obviously you mentioned Seven's doing some of this streaming. Do you expect to see them all doing the same sort of thing with HD and streaming going forward? Yeah,
look, I think everybody's got to go HD now. You'll be just seen as a bit of a dinosaur if you don't, if you let Nine out there with streaming. But the big thing is that Foxtel, I mean, if you watch your TV through your Foxtel box, which is between a quarter and a third of the people in Australia, you won't be able to watch 9 HD because they don't have a deal with Foxtel yet. So Foxtel and Nine will need to try and sort that out pretty quickly. Otherwise, you're going to have to go and put an aerial on the roof, which a lot of people haven't done for quite a while. All
right, the other thing I want to mention in this is what it all means for media regulations. This is something that is an ongoing debate that we talk about a lot here on the show as well. But when you have all the networks potentially streaming live, what does it mean for the reach?
Well, it makes those rules look really antiquated and ridiculous, doesn't it? So you would have to think they're going to change. And the government is sort of making noises that they will. But gee whiz, you know, are they going to... We're, November next week? I don't think we're going to see something this year, are we? It'd be a bit of a surprise if they sprung it. And are they going to do it then before the election? We're in election year, you know. I think it will come, but it's just how soon it will.
Yeah, timeline on that. Yeah. Well, you were obviously at the Nine upfronts and... You know, James spoke to them on their efforts to rebrand, reinvest and reinvent. The Re's, you said? Nine's Chief Revenue Officer Peter Wiltshire spoke with James Manning.
It's certainly a day in history for Nine Entertainment Co where we are seriously resetting the way that we define television going forward. And that redefinition means that we've had to completely think our platform, the way that we deliver content, the way we brand ourselves for consumers to have points of familiarity across our portfolio, the way we build a closer relationship with those consumers so we can start to talk to them one-on-one and provide more customised experiences, more customised advertising. It's about a complete reframe, and so you're dead on. You've actually captured it spot on.
Yeah. Now, the three big things, I guess, the big sort of explosive announcements, I guess, 9 HD. So you're going to be running a simulcast. You'll keep a standard definition, but you'll have a fully HD channel running. Implications for the market in that?
Oh, I don't think there's any implications. I think it's only benefit because it's a full simulcast. There's no breakout and there's no split. So everything that's currently going out on 9 SD will go out on 9 HD in full simulcast 24/7, and that'll commence on November the 26th. It just means consumers get the benefit of getting the majority of our pictures that we already produce in high definition on their screens, and now that we've got such penetration of high definition television sets in homes, we ought to be providing that benefit to consumers.
But have you ever had an advertiser say to you, who spent heavily on an ad, gee, we wouldn't mind seeing that in high definition?
Well, I think the vast majority, if not 100% of ads, are now made in high definition because everybody's shooting on HD cameras. It's not unusual. So I think there's a benefit there for just the broader consumer experience. You're just going to see a crystal clear picture for the majority of the content that goes across the screen.
Do you think your opposition, I mean 9 and 7 and 10, they're not going to want to be SD channels now, are they? Do you think that might be some market moves there?
I don't work for 7 or 10, so I can't speculate. It would seem a obvious move at some point for all of us to be in HD. We've been waiting on legislation to be able to provide it. We've also been waiting on set penetration to get to the point where it's quite meaningful. And I think we've just gone through that point where we are at a point now where around 90% of sets in use are high definition sets.
One of the other big bangs was 9 Life, mate. You've got a new channel coming up. Was there, so it's going to be a lifestyle channel. Did you have a number of templates that you looked at before you decided which one to go with?
Yeah, we did, but there is also a limit of rights that you can acquire for establishing a whole new channel. And when we did our deal with Scripps, it was really the obvious one that had a very, very large catalogue of quality lifestyle-based content. It exists as a major cable provider in the US. We've managed to do a long-term deal with them on the lifestyle product, and I think it takes out a nice niche for us. We see that lifestyle is a popular content platform for Australian consumers. We see that not only in our broadcast environment, but in our digital network. All the lifestyle brands tend to be the ones that are consumed the most by consumers. So why not satisfy that and use our spectrum wisely, put up another channel for Australians to have live, free-to-air, 100% with first-run product from the Scripps network.
Now, when's the start date for this channel? It's not far off, is it?
It's not far off, November 26, and we'll start promoting that to consumers immediately, along with our high-definition launch, which actually happens on the same day. So November 26 is a very big day for us as a business, but also, more importantly, for consumers in terms of what they get to choose from.
I'm guessing you might have road tested it with some agencies and some clients?
We have not spoken to anyone about this. We've kept everything embargoed right up until today because we know there's demand for lifestyle product. HD really isn't so much about an advertising conversation, it's about a consumer conversation, but it has benefits for advertisers in terms of their ads being in high definition. So we know that there's demand. Our products themselves in the lifestyle category are always under demand, so we've just matched that with the content rights that were available and created ourselves a new position in market with 9 Live.
Did you have to do a plan, though, of what sort of revenue do you think you'll be able to get from the new channel?
I knew this question was coming. Yeah, naturally.
I didn't ask you how much.
We obviously we had to operate on what would our content rights be, what would the cost of putting up another channel be. We've had the experience already in launching Go and Gem over our time, but it's not difficult for us to establish what that would be and obviously forecast an audience and forecast a revenue. Not one that I'm prepared to talk about today, but that's definitely been part of the plan.
Do you think there'll be a slow take-up in the numbers, and do you think eventually this could sort of write you more dollars than you get from Gem and Go?
I mean, anything we do in terms of building out more channels, we're obviously keen to get more audience across our portfolio and therefore, of course, more revenue. So that goes, I think, without saying. Do I think that it'll add? Yes, I do. I think there's a window there for us to provide consumers with some content they've not yet seen unless they're a subscriber. So on that basis, it's a new offering, and I believe that it's going to build out our audience portfolio.
It's interesting, the 3 commercial networks, the different approaches to live streaming, if you like. 7's all in straight away. Can't wait to get it going. 10 is saying, yeah, look, we don't, maybe you've got to be there, but there's no rush. You're sort of middle ground, if you like. 9, well, you'll get 9 up first, then introduce the other channels later on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we are all in. Our only challenge is rights, and as we're rapidly acquiring rights to be able to do live streaming and catch up, we'll bring them straight to the platform. But it's only a question of rights and rights holders and their own motivations. We don't literally control what they decide to do, but we are aggressively pursuing those rights to ensure that we can provide that service across the back of our content. And I think in the future world, rights in terms of content, you have to become agnostic. You have to be able to acquire content that you have the privilege of distributing across your portfolio, because technology is forcing us to that place anyway.
Tell us about the rebranding. You're putting the word 9 in front of everything virtually. Is that an indication that when you're getting revenues now, people are really looking holistically across the whole group? They're not cherry-picking things out?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that strategy was largely a consumer-led one, because we wanted consumers to understand that when they touched any part of our environment, they were actually consuming something from our 9 portfolio or 9 Entertainment Co portfolio. I think that as you work with advertisers and agencies and you can build out solutions, one of the key things that everyone's clearly asking for is how we use our data platform. And we already have the privilege of our Microsoft relationship with our user ID access, but we believe that building out a first-party database in our broadcast environment gives us a chance to progress through addressable audiences and addressable advertising and targeting. If we do that, we've got to have consumers have to understand that when they have one login to our environment, they know when they're consuming our platform, they're consuming something from the 9 family.
tell us about some of the key programming. I remember you were heavily involved when the block came back in its second iteration, if you like, and you sort of drove that because you persuaded the guys. You said, look, we can write a lot of revenue off this. And I think you did. It first came back with just something like 10 episodes in the first season, pushed it out to something like 60 or 70 eventually we got to. We're only doing one series next year. Does that have revenue implications for you guys, or is it good to sort of protect the brand like that?
Oh, I think there's a balance in that, James. It's a good point. There's a balance. I think we've been guilty of running the block twice a year, and I think that's largely been successful, although we did see a little bit of fatigue on the block at the start of this year. And some would say that's because it was too soon from the previous. Others would say that it was just hard up against some highly competitive environment at the time. The block that's on air at the moment is building nicely into a finale number, which means that there is definitely a desire for that franchise to come back. But you've also got to be able to schedule it effectively too. And going into 2016, there's a bunch of new announcements around programming that are going to occupy significant hours of prime time, and you've got to have a window to be able to put it to air. So one block next year, but don't forget we've got The Voice coming back. We've got a brand new iteration of AGT, and you've seen the judges announced today, and a whole host of other product that you've seen on the reel. So we're feeling pretty good about 2016.
One of your biggest programming hits this year was probably Married at First Sight. I think there was only 6 episodes from memory. They're only doing one extra next year. Do you sit in meetings and go, come on, guys, couldn't you do us a few more? I mean, can you give us at least 10 or 12?
Look, I think it was one of the noisiest formats of the year. It was quite unique, an exercise in sort of human behaviour. It is a very labour-intensive show to make, and therefore it's a fairly high-cost show to make. So we've elected to go for 2 series next year, and I think that the length of the series is right. I don't think you can burn it for any more episodes. I think we've called it right in terms of the number of hours. Also, consumers, when we ask them to commit to a program and you're going to serve them 70 or 80 hours of content on one brand in one series, that's a big commitment for a consumer to make. So a program like Married at First Sight does need you to be there for each of the episodes, as opposed to other shows that allow you to dip in and dip out. So containing the duration and length of the series, but actually splitting up into 2, I think is a good decision for the success of that format.
Yeah, the ratings for that sort of entertainment programming gets all the headlines, I guess. But your day in, day out performers are your news and current affairs and your sport. The cricket's back this summer. We're getting a day-night test. Does that affect revenues? I mean, would you like to see lots of day-night cricket?
Oh, look, absolutely. I think there's
tests, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, news and current affairs is the foundation of our schedule, and every night that builds our vertical. And sport, obviously, is a mantra for the business, as per the way we've treated our rights for NRL just recently. Having cricket innovate itself into a prime time slot is obviously very beneficial for viewers, but also for the way that we can monetise it. I think sponsors see it as an innovation to the platform. There's more people around at evening to watch television if they're not at work, so there's a good chance that audiences will be stronger for those broadcast slots.
Now, of course, the other big news in the sector this week is to do with Nine's key rival, Seven. They're also undergoing what you could call somewhat of a refresh, James. Big news out of Seven, and we were actually talking about this earlier in the year when we found out Craig McPherson was heading into Seven, saying, look, there's a lot of heavy hitters in one place. Yeah.
So you think what happened this week with Craig coming in, bringing in Jason Morrison as to run the Seven News Sydney operation, there would be a bit of carnage, if you like. So out is Rob Rashke, out is Chris Willis, two news veterans have been doing a pretty good job. I mean, they aren't that far behind Nine. And presumably this is all about ratings. Seven wants to get the edge back. They want to be number 1 at 6 o'clock at night.
Well, how do you think Craig McPherson will get them there? What do they need to do?
Well, that's a big question, isn't it? What will be his proposition to the viewer to tune in? They're going to have a convince the viewer that they're going to be the place to turn to first for news, I guess, and some other special stuff. I don't know. But it's not just that news hour, it's the whole news brand. It'll be about reaching the audience across social media, which Seven's already doing a bit of a good job with, I think, but it'll be, Facebook, Twitter, all the different social media platforms, getting your news out there, getting your reporters working that social media hard too. So it's going to be a multi-platform attack. Their online brand, they've got a JV with Yahoo, which is a little bit messy maybe for the viewer. Nine's got a bit of a clearer one with their 9news.com.au. That's arguably a better news desk.
So you're not expecting to hear of a bunch of job cuts at Seven?
I don't think so. I mean, they've got good people there doing good work, so it's just how we can massage that into just, you know, getting a few more viewers.
And just finally, Jason Morrison as Sydney News Director, is that unexpected? I know he's been 10...
He hasn't been mentioned before, I don't think, so it probably surprised a few people. He's been working with Gina Reinhardt as sort of corporate, you know, relations, doing some work with her. I think he's still been working as a columnist for the Tally, been doing a bit of fill-in work in radio, but he's ex-10 chief of staff in the news, and they had a pretty good news service. Well, they still do, but years ago they had a pretty hard-hitting news service, so he was part of that. So it'd be really something interesting to watch.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Unfolds.
All right. Well, we do need to take a quick break here on Media Week. Coming up next, we'll talk 10 is the worst over as the company announces a new CFO, but a widening loss. Details next.